Welcome to ProptechOS Best of Breed podcast. Today I have with me Andreas Wallén from Akelius Technologies, and we are going to talk about how Andreas and Akelius used their software, their ERP software for administration to enhance efficiency and the kind of voyage, you could almost say, that Andreas has been with Akelius, and where Akelius Technology is today and where they're heading with all the new challenges. A warm welcome, Andreas, CEO of Akelius Technologies.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Erik.
You had excellent business timing with your portfolio a couple of years ago, and I guess without an IT system that wouldn't have been possible.
No, that's correct. Akelius Group, it's a group of companies today, is of course consisting of the real estate company where we own residential real estate. And since this big disposal, we have created a tech company. So we're a standalone company today, and we are also selling our services externally. And why did Akelius decide to go all in on tech development, could one ask himself or herself? And we saw many years ago, we saw that a lot of the administrative tools that are out in the market are quite old, to be honest. That's our view. And they also integrate quite badly. And with the big market fit that we have with a lot of different countries and also markets within the countries, we had difficulties into integrating the different bought softwares that we had. So at some point, we decided to build everything on our own instead. And we are a bit in the mindset of go big or go home. So we did build everything from scratch, basically.
Okay. Oh, yeah, right. Since you were kind of playing monopoly in the sense that you were acquiring lots of buildings and portfolios, and then of course they had whatever system they had in that part, and then you need to consolidate these things. Yeah.
Exactly. And my experience is that many of these, let's say, ERP suppliers, it's an old abbreviation maybe, but they are quite sitting with quite old legacy systems. And they are today saying that they have APIs and they can integrate and so on. But when you look closely, it's a bit for show. It's not really there, is
Yeah.
our opinion.
Okay. So when you were starting to, here we have a new portfolio in some part of Europe or the US for a bunch of buildings, and then they had the systems, and then when you started to lift on the lids of the APIs, then it turned out like, yeah, everyone talks about open APIs, as we know, but which means that there might be a fraction of the data.
It's part of their business case to keep the customer in their system, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's getting better today. I would say this is maybe some of these things happened some years ago, but and this is of course one thing that we want to be able to exchange data. So we built our own platform to integrate to whatever system is there in the market. And this way we could gather data and information from various systems, and over time we grow our own applications, and then we have our own, let's say, data lake or data mart or data warehouse that we use.
I come from the technical sides in buildings. That's where my knowledge and experience. And I know that there are so many different kinds of vendors. And I guess it's the same on the kind of ERP side. And there's so many different ways that you can set up exactly the same system. Depends on which side of the bed did the engineer go up on that morning when they started to install that building. That's my kind of best explanation on why when you have three buildings standing next to each other, built by the same contractors in the same time range, why is it differently organized? The IT systems, the technical systems, why are they differently tagged? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly it. And just for clarity, we are working mainly on the administrative side, let's say the ERP side, and the managing tenants, managing the employees, and digitizing the procedures inside the company, let's say, and also with the tenants. Whereas we did take a look at this smart building features and so on, and exactly what you're saying there, Eric, is one of the challenges where we didn't see that we could overcome it really, especially since the Akelius Group is in so many countries. It brings another difficulty into it because every country, every city has its own specialties.
Going a little bit further on this line is that, I mean, right now there are huge challenges to the society at whole, and specifically to property owners. There are in the European Union, there are so much new legislations. I was going through all the different kinds of IT data security directives, and there are so many acronyms that you have to take into consideration. And thinking of that, I think one of the kind of biggest challenges we have right now is, of course, to reduce the overall heating of our globe. And a number that goes around is that 40% of all the energy is being consumed in buildings. And then when we have the whole new EU taxonomy with the CSRD reporting, I guess it starts to become even more important to have your numbers in order, say, in sort of.
I think there are two paths that are a bit tricky. One path is the GDPR. It's now not that new anymore. But in the real estate business, my experience at least is that the tricky part is the tenant information. So there you need to be careful how to manage tenant information. And since we are administrating tenants, it's kind of tricky. So we need to make sure that we do it in the right way. We touched upon also PCI DSS with payments as well. It's also not new, but at the end, we are certified by this ISO standard. I'm actually looking for the number here. I don't remember now the exact number.
27,001, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. This one. So we did go down that route, and we can also see, and this is information security and so on. We can also see that we're under attack all the time. So we have a team working on these things. The world sort of propels into tech security issues and danger, and we can see that has been growing year on year, to be honest.
Okay.
Then you have the other part, which is ESG, right? So you have the evolving requirements on ESG reporting. And this is tricky as well. This is something that requires to gather data from utility providers and so on and to create reports. I don't have a silver bullet for this one. This is a tricky one because it's often, like mentioned before, it's related also then to existing hardware and legacy systems in the buildings. I think I think actually Sweden is quite far ahead because the utility providers are providing APIs and data on these numbers. So I think Sweden has a good chance to be best in breed in these topics, actually,
Yeah.
if I based on the experience we have in other countries where it's much more, let's say, old.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you. And actually, I know that Finland and Denmark are way ahead of us because they
Oh,
have they
right.
have they have standardized the utilities companies reporting. Here, if you go, it is different than Stockholm and Gothenburg, of course, but still there are APIs being available. And as said, there are lots of acronyms of new kinds of directives. You have the energy performance directives and other parts, and I guess also maybe not when you have like residential tenants or customers in the beginning, but you will also need to share the data again, GDPR and other parts for especially to other businesses because they need to do their ESG reporting. When we're looking at the kind of demands from tenants of new services. I know that when I've been talking, I've seen when you're looking at the kind of office space, you see that the co-working has exploded as a new kind of service, which means that suddenly, as a property owner, you need to have an operator. You need to provide lots of other things. Do you see something similar also on the residential side? Do you see a business opportunity to offer more services, and of course then having systems supporting that?
Yeah, there's a few different items there, because in Sweden we have warm rent, right? So that's a rent that includes heat and all of that. But we have systems that include or exclude utility provider costs and so on. So in some countries it's easier to just put some, or you need to put some costs on top, and that of course opens up for other businesses as well. I would say one thing that has been discussed back and forth is, of course, furnished apartments. We can see that in some countries and some cities that this is an interesting part, and how to charge for that. We also see, we have been investigating quite heavily, and it's still on the table, is the way of paying for your rent. So we have talked with the payment providers on if rent or deposits can be paid over credit cards and debit cards and so on. So this is also an opportunity we see. Of course, you can then have sort of what laundry services and all these different things that you can think of. And we have also, for some properties, we have a fitness membership card. When it comes to payments, maybe Sweden is very much autogiro, but we see in other countries it's quite common to pay with your credit card, the rent.
Which means that people are using the credit cards. They favor using the credit cards because gives them better credit scoring. I get it.
Both. So you have better credit scoring and you get some bonus
I get some kickback.
deals.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. When I'm looking at the technical systems that are basically put into the buildings, there's a lot of talk about open APIs, but there is always a huge challenge to onboard the systems. I guess you have seen similar things on
Yeah,
your side.
it's similar. I would sometimes people talk about PropTech as something for the real estate industry, and I see it in on two different angles. One is the administrative side, that is sort of part of PropTech. This is how you manage your real estate company, from the internal work with the employees, with the tenants, with some of the suppliers as well. And then you have the smart building side, where you are going into the physical buildings more. You have the BIM model, you have utility providers, you have the smart locks and whatnot. And this is something that we have not really worked so much on. So we're more on the administrative side. And there we saw that with every portfolio that was bought, there came in some ERP system. And I would say also the real estate industry is very it's with sometimes low margins on the operational side, which also then brings kind of legacy ERP systems, which are maybe not so cutting edge when it comes to tech, and limited in integration capacities, and also when it comes to modern ways of working, they were lacking features that we were looking for.
What was the challenges? You can see that Akelius has a very successful business. How do you manage to actually make it so successful?
Akelius Technology came out of the real estate company. So we were targeted to optimize and drive change and efficiencies within the real estate company. And then at some point, it was decided that more or less half of the real estate company was sold. This was a very, I would say, successful sale. It was 9.1 billion euros. It's like 3 years ago or something similar. And at that point, we were also asked to extract all the data for the data room for the due diligence, right? And we did that within 20 minutes because we had streamlined all the business procedures within the company. And the brokers and the companies that were interested in the portfolios, they were really surprised. And some of the stakeholders there said that this was really valuable. And we did a desktop exercise that estimated it was around about 5% of the deal, the clean data that we could provide. That's a big number. It's €500 million, right? So this is something that we're proud of. And at that point, the Akelius Group then surfaced. So we did a carve out. So Akelius Technology became its own company. And since some time now, we have had the opportunity to sell our services externally as well, which we have done.
Okay, that's really interesting to see that you actually started to put a number. Everyone talks about data is the new oil, but actually starting putting numbers. Even though if I know if it was your kind of internal exercise, but just to see the value of data, and I guess you will have the same kind of value of the data if you need to do a re-evaluation for financing or for insurance quotation or other parts. I guess it's
Yeah,
not.
I mean, in a real estate company, you always need to reevaluate your portfolio. You maybe sell part of the portfolio and so on, or something, and these things work well for that.
We're looking a little bit forward on a kind of the challenges. I mean, right now we have, of course, we have the global heating with the ongoing ESG reporting in different parts of the world. Here in Europe, as we are placed both, we have the EU taxonomy, which is a legal requirement. I don't know what you say about the upcoming ESG reporting demands.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, I would say. We are quite international, so both our customers and the Akelius Group. And we have been struggling a bit. I would say in Sweden, the utility providers and so on, they are quite digitalized and have good APIs. I think gathering data in Sweden is somewhat easier, and it's provided by the utility providers to some extent. Whereas for other countries, it's still people going to the building and checking some meters in the basement kind of thing. So this is very challenging, I would say. We have not really seen a silver bullet solution for this.
I mean, it's a constant, it's an evolving work. We are living in a more kind of a more, almost going to use the word frightened world. I mean, a more unsecure world when it comes to IT security. I don't know what your experiences are on that side.
Yeah, we are ISO certified, and yeah, the most important data to protect on our end is the tenant data, and it's related to GDPR and so on. But also, we see a lot of fraudsters out there who try to get to us. So I would say we are under constant attack, and we actually are now hiring yet another one to the team, to this information security team. This is not a desktop exercise. We see real attacks coming in every once in a while.
Okay. I don't know if there's anything else you would like to add, Andreas, but otherwise, I think this has been extremely interesting discussion and understanding the secrets of the Akelius Technology Group.
There are no secrets. We're
Mm.
open for discussing anything. So that's a bit of our culture as well. And thank you, Eric, for having me. It was a great pleasure for me.